boroughs, surrounding areas, and I've been talking to them about them thinking about selling their homes, and something interesting keeps showing up throughout these conversations. Now, not every single one of the conversations that I've had, but it's been kind of a theme. So I want to go on here and kind of give you an idea of what's been going on. So most of the homeowners that I talk to, they fall into one of three categories, right? Not 10, not 20, not 30, just three solid categories. And understanding which category you're in, it can actually help you make a much clearer decision on what to do next, right? Because selling a home, it's not just about the market. We talk about springtime, we're just a couple weeks away from that, and we're still hearing different things, right? Um, it's not about the market, it's about timing, it's about preparation, and it really, really centers around personal circumstances. So today I want to walk through the three types of home sellers that I'm seeing right now, again, in Queens and Brooklyn. And the purpose of this is that by the end, you might recognize exactly where you fit, which can actually help you game plan a lot easier than you might think, right? So the first one's pretty easy, right? It's the seller who's ready right now. This is the first group, it's the easiest to recognize. These are the homeowners who are ready to move forward now, right? Something triggered the decision, whether it was, you know, a job relocation, growing family, downsizing. It could be people moving out of New York, relocating for job, family, or otherwise. And then there's, of course, the life change, which requires a move, right? And that could be losing a loved one, losing an additional source of income, which unfortunately happens and it has been happening lately. Um, and for these sellers, it's not a question of whether they should sell or not, right? The question is, how do I do this? How do I do this properly so that I can maximize my outcome, right? And when someone is in this category, the focus usually becomes the strategy, right? Things like pricing the home correctly, preparing the home, preparing the home for market. Um, you want to be thinking about the strategy of launching your home onto the market with strong marketing. Then you want to be talking about the strategy about how negotiation is going to go. Negotiating effectively once buyers are showing interest, are putting in offers. These sellers, they're already mentally committed, right? They just want to make sure that they execute the process intelligently and that they get the result that they need, right? They just want to get this done because they need to get this done, right? The second type of buyer, or the second type of seller, is the one who is quietly preparing. I want to say that this might be the largest segment that I've been talking to lately. Um, and that group is actually much larger than what people think, right? These are the homeowners that they're planning to sell, but not immediately. And this might have been even people that tried to sell at one point, but were unable to, either as a for sale by owner, where they tried to sell the home themselves, or when they listed with another agent and the home failed to sell due to whatever the extenuating circumstances was, whether it was pricing, the condition of the property, negotiation, the strategy was wrong, it was marketed improperly, um, might not have been the best agent choice that they made. So, regardless of what it is, it's still in their mind. So they're still thinking, but it's not something that they want to do immediately. So what are they doing? So those sellers, they're watching the market. It could be the late nights on Zillow while you're on Netflix. They're thinking about timing. When is it going to really match up? When are my, where I want to go to and how I'm going to get there? When will that match up? Am I waiting for the kids to get out of the house? Am I waiting for just, summer break? Am I waiting for right after summer break? Am I waiting for my retirement? There's just different things, right? And it involves timing. they're definitely doing research, whether it's searching on, you know, Google, YouTube, on the AIs that are available, the AI tools that are available on my website. They're reading up on the process. They're reading up on everything that's going on. They're connecting dots of the you know, macro news to what's going on locally. They're looking at every article that says, you know, worst time to sell your home, best time to sell your home, highest mortgage rates, lowest mortgage rates, stock market went down, stock market all time high. They're looking at all that stuff, right? And they're trying to analyze all that, and it can be overwhelming, but they're trying to analyze and kind of filter all through all that to again connect the timing and connect when it's going to happen, right? They might be wondering things like, should we sell next year? Should we wait for the interest rates to change, right? Those are common questions, common topics that they're wondering about, and they wonder about it out loud as well. It's part of these conversations that I've had with them, where they will be like, "Well, we're not sure. Maybe we should sell next year," and then we have to dig deeper into what that means, right? Because just because there's a time frame, what is important about that time frame? So you got to think about that, and it can't be like, well, my uncle told me that it would be much better next year. Well, why? What's the reasoning? What's the logic behind it? What's the strategy behind it? Should we wait for the interest rates to change? Big one. They've been changing left and right. So for to change, you gotta again narrow that down. What does that actually mean to you? Because just a few weeks ago, the interest rates were the lowest they've been in 3 years. So, and the people that had been talking to me about this, they still didn't make a move, right? So you have to really not only give something a title like a question, but you also have to dig into the reasoning behind that. What is holding you back, right? It could be fear, and you could be naming it. Should we sell next year? Should we wait for interest rates to change? Um, Kind of that procrastination, which is just preventing pain that you don't want to deal with. But once you understand a clear plan, it's not pain that you're looking at. So you really need to have a strategy, and your favorite realtor can help you with that. So they'll be wondering things like, what improvements should we make? Should we renovate? Should we tear down half the house and rebuild it? Well, slow down. Consultation first. Get with a professional that you trust before you do any of that kind of stuff. Sometimes the improvements that you got to make, I've made tons of videos on that. It could be as simple as a paint job. So again, this is what they're telling me though. And then there's the classic, the big one. It's, where would we move to if we sold? That's a big one that has a better solution than people actually realize. And I'm going to have a little bit more on that. So if you guys want to know more about how you can buy and sell at the same time successfully, please let me know. I'll send you that video and some of the guides that we have to walk you through that process, because it's actually a lot less stressful than people paint it out to be. And there's strategies that you can have in place. I actually also went on, I think it was like even TikTok talking about this, but we can talk about that. But where would we move? Where should we move to? Now, that's something that's also a thing that you got to dig into a little bit, where if you're not sure where you want to move, that's where also speaking to an agent now, because a lot of times people think that with all these questions in mind, let me not bother a real estate agent right now. I don't want them hitting me up. I don't want the calls, the emails, the text messages, none of that. But let me change that. So if you were to speak to me about where should I move, or where would we move to if we sold, what I would tell you is that we have an expansive network where we can connect you with agents in the places that you're even curious about. Oh, you're thinking about Miami, Boynton Beach, Phoenix, Peoria, Flagstaff, Glendale, Arizona. You're thinking maybe California. You're thinking Austin, Texas, finally, Houston, a little Dallas action. If you're thinking about specific areas, you don't have to go and fly there every week to go see properties. We have a network of agents, of trusted partners that we can have give you virtual showings, educate you on the process. Have a one-on-one chat like this virtually, where they explain what the process is like, how having somebody like like me here in New York and then boots on the ground there can make the process seamless, and then also help you understand, what the pros and cons are. That way you can make an educated decision, right? And then when you're doing these virtual showings, and some of them have YouTube channels dedicated to showing you what it's like to live in those areas, I mean, you'll be better prepared. Even if it's, a year, two, three, four, 5 down the road, you can never prepare soon enough. That I always say, right? So all of these have a couple of things in common. They're not rushing, right? Which is okay. It's not about rushing to do something. It's about doing it when it's right, right? But they are all mentally preparing in some way, shape, or form. And the smartest homeowners in this group, they start doing something important early. And that is simply that they start gathering information. They want to understand some of the most basic, fundamental, and important things, which is, what is their home going to sell for, right? So you want to get a home valuation. And don't just rely on the automatic ones from online websites. They're rough estimates and they're not going into your home. Think about it. If your home is 4,000 square feet, let's just say, your neighbor is the same thing, but they haven't updated there since 1972, and you just had a gut renovation. These online portals, they're not going into your home, looking at everything and truly analyzing it the way that a true professional with experience would do. So don't trust them, but at least have them as a kind of guide, at least to give you a ballpark. Um, what the market is doing in your specific neighborhood, that's a key element that you need to pay attention to, because what the news says about Kalamazoo doesn't matter here in Queens, Brooklyn, Long Island, Staten Island, the Bronx, surrounding areas. It doesn't matter here unless you're moving to Kalamazoo, right? And I say that jokingly, but it's people pay attention to the macro news stories, which are home sales are at an all-time low overall because there's no inventory, or overall because there's no inventory, buyers aren't qualifying, the unemployment rate went up, this, that, and the other. And here in New York, if you're looking at Bayside, Little Neck, Douglaston, Astoria, Woodside, Jackson Heights, Elmhurst, I'm going all over the place, but those places are selling, and you have to price your home right in all those neighborhoods, right? You're still getting top dollar, but you have to be strategizing, and you can't be reaching for the moon and the stars, right? And again, I'm generalizing, but you have to know what your market in your neighborhood is doing. Again, good idea to team up with a wonderful real estate agent. Just saying. And they want to know what preparation might increase the value of their home. Always looking for little tips and tricks, and what can I do, the least, the most minimal thing that I can do to increase the most. What will give me the most return on my investment of time, of money, of sweat, you know, of all those things. What is going to be the best way to increase the value of my home, right? And people will go online and they'll say, just gut renovate your kitchen. Let's hold on that. We have to look at what the neighbors are doing, what the market is doing, and you got to realize that it's not just what's sold, but also what your competition is, which is what are active listings looking like, right? What are they asking versus what you're asking? How is their home versus what your home is? So a lot of little details, but that preparation, to increase the value of your home could be really small, subtle changes that you didn't even expect, right? They're doing all of this because when the time comes, they want they want to be ready to move quickly. And we've had this in the past where we've spoken to people for years, or we've sent emails to people for years, and they might look at the market updates that we send, once, twice, 3 times a year, or zero. A couple of years back, I had somebody that absolutely never looked at any of the emails that I got, but they stayed subscribed. All of a sudden, I got a phone call one day, literally asking me, "Hey, I've seen all your content. I'm ready to list my home." Right? Just came out of nowhere, but it's because they were collecting the information. They were doing all the things that I just talked about. So they're ready to go like this, and so are we. So um, honestly, these homeowners often end up having the smoothest sales, and That is actually really true because they've had enough time to think everything through, and they usually contact a professional that gives them, hopefully really good advice, really sage advice to make sure that they are as prepared as they could possibly be for getting a successful launch and a successful sale of their property, right? The third type of seller that I'm seeing right now, that I'm speaking to on a really frequent basis, that's the group that probably feels the most stressed. It's the seller who feels stuck. These are homeowners who think they might want to sell, but there's something that is holding them back, right? They feel uncertain. And sometimes it's because of the market headlines, like I've talked about. That's so common. And part of our job as real estate agents here locally is to be aware of the local market, have a good knowledge of the hyper local market, and be able to differentiate between the local market and, we are aware of what's going on a macro level, nationally, globally, but those things don't matter as much as the local market. Real estate happens hyper locally, right? So we want to make sure to be able to help you understand the difference between the two to see what makes sense for you at the end of the day, right? So again, sometimes it's because of the market headlines, sometimes it's because they're unsure where they're going to go to next. That one has been elevating in terms of the amount of times I've had that conversation over the last couple of years. And then sometimes it's because they've heard mixed advice from friends, neighbors, or the internet. I understand, and I say this with love, right? I understand that your, you know, father-in-law, mother-in-law bought a house in 1996. I understand that they might have had issues during the inspection. I understand that they might have negotiated a new refrigerator, whatever kind of expert advice they have for you. Your friends will contradict you. Neighbors will say, no, there's no way. You should be getting way more for your house. The internet's going to be saying different things. Please seek the advice of a professional. One thing that I think that holds people back with talking to a real estate agent, besides thinking that we're all really annoying, is the fact that a lot of times I've had the conversation where people think that they're so far away from making that move that it's a waste of time for an agent to speak to them, right? And the thing is that it's not, because if you think about it, when you speak to me and I give you the truth, since I do speak, when I speak to a potential client or my clients, I give them advice as if I was sitting across from my mom, my brother, my family, and I was giving them advice, right? So when you're asking me about, you know, where I should go, or this is what my neighbors, my friends, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, sorry guys, but it happens all the time. My dad, my mom, the internet. This is what everybody's saying, and some people come to me like driven crazy. They don't know what's from what, right? And a lot of times they'll just come in. No, my dad said this, and then I'll say, "That's I understand where they're coming from, but let me show you what's going on." Right? I'm big on talking about my experience and giving stories, like almost parables, on how a past client of mine dealt with something they feel like you did right now, and then we did this, so that solved that problem. Um, I do that, but one thing that I'm big on is showing what is actually going on and showing you how a decision that you're going to make is going to either benefit you or hurt you. So I want to make sure that you're doing whatever choice you're making by being educated at a high level, and that you understand what your options are, and you can differentiate the advice that people are giving to you from professional advice that I'm giving to you, right? So, after all this, this group, they might be thinking things like, maybe we should wait. What if prices change? What if they go down? What if they go up? What if we sell and regret it? What if we can't find the next home? What if we can't find the right next home? And all of that uncertainty, it just creates a feeling of being stuck. And I've seen it like suck away that like excitement about moving somewhere, getting a new home, selling, finding that dream home, you're finally able to afford it, all those things. all that uncertainty just sucks away from it. And for you to enjoy the process a little more, I'm telling you, getting that education, sitting with the true professional, it makes all the difference in the world. It's funny because it's almost like sitting with a therapist at the end of the day when it comes to this group, you know? So what the thing that most homeowners eventually realize is that clarity, it doesn't come from waiting any longer. Clarity actually comes from understanding all of your options. You know, once people see the numbers, once they understand the market, once they explore what their next move could actually look like, the uncertainty, it just becomes a lot easier to navigate. It really does. It's night and day. You can sleep at night. Or at least I hope that with like a conversation with me could help you sleep at night, right? So when I look at the homeowners that I'm speaking to across Queens and Brooklyn right now, they're falling into these three categories, right? You're either ready to sell, quietly preparing for the future, you're feeling uncertain about the timing, and none of these positions are wrong. They're just different stages of the same decision process, right? So I'm actually curious. If you're a homeowner watching this, which category do you feel like you're in right now? Are you ready to go? Are you preparing quietly? You don't want that extra newsletter or that extra piece of mail in the in the mailbox. You don't want that extra phone call. Or are you still figuring things out? You know, if you want, you can even just comment one, two, or three. I'm really curious. I would love to know where you are in the process. All right. And now, if you're in that second or third category, the people who are preparing or feeling uncertain, sometimes a simple conversation can make things a lot clearer. Understanding what your home might sell for, what the market looks like in your neighborhood, what your options might be if you did decide to move, those answers often help people move from uncertainty to confidence. So if you're curious about what your options look like, feel free to reach out or send a message. You can DM me through any of my platforms. If you're comfortable on Instagram at one, that's my handle. You can DM me there. You could always call or text me at 917. And if you like what I've been talking about, check out Sell Your Queen's Home, and you'll see all of the different videos. I even have separate playlists for home sellers, home buyers. I have market updates from back in the day, so you can see how I've talked about the market in the past, how I try to make it as palatable as possible and as easy to understand as possible. And the answers, the answers will help you move from uncertainty to confidence, right? So I'm always happy to help homeowners make informed decisions, even if selling isn't the right move now. I do not mind telling you, don't make this move. I've never been afraid of making it, and I will never be afraid of making that. I can't want to buy a home more than you, and I can't want to sell a home more than you. It's never going to mean more one that made all the prices at home, at home. In buying that, improving that, what I'm here to do is to importantly is to help you achieve the goal that you're setting out when you are looking to sell that home, right? Whatever it may be. It might be one of these different ones that I'm talking about, or it may be one of the other types of sales where it's not even that happy, where it's our family's home, mom and dad, they're no longer here. And us kids now, we have to be the ones that sell it. Not a happy time, but sitting back and delaying it and letting bills pile up or more resentment in between family members, it's not going to help, right? Having knowledge and having somebody that you can trust that has dealt with these types of things in the past, that has the resources, and even if I haven't dealt with some scenario, that's the best part of this job. I get to go to the resources that I have for you to get you the professionals that can actually give you incredible advice and that can actually help you out of these situations, right? So thank you so much for spending some time with me. And remember, no matter where you are in this process, being informed always puts you in a stronger position. All right. So get informed, be in that stronger position, increase your leverage, and please always feel free to reach out to me. And if you liked any of this video, you can think of one person in your life that you're like, man, that person will really benefit from meeting Dave, talking to Dave, watching Dave's content, or even just from the info in this video, please feel free to share it to them, you know? And I look forward to talking to you guys, talking to whoever you send my way. And I look forward to connecting with you on any of these platforms that I'm on. You can look me up on all of them. All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. And I'll see you guys